Welcome, everyone, to the March CCA podcast. We're here today with the inaugural podcast, and we want you guys to help us name this.
Please.
We thought a little bit of some names and didn't come up with anything interesting. So if you have a good idea of what we can call this, we're going to try to do this maybe monthly. So if you have ideas, go in the comments and let us know what you think we should call it. That would be awesome. But the premise here is that we want to listen to our customers and have more of a informal way to answer some questions, go over some things that we think would be easier to answer over video. Mm-hmm. And so if you have heard some of these questions before, some of these topics sound familiar, it's probably because we've been listening, we've been taking notes. And so we're going to cover some of those today, and obviously some things that we just thought would be good to sort of talk about. So we're going to start with some artificial intelligence. We know that's been a really popular topic lately. Everyone's asking questions about what is AI, how do we use it best, how do we stay safe? We're not going to get into too much of that today, but we'll just kind of touch on a couple of things that might be interesting. The ATT outage that happened recently, we'll cover that and some ideas we might have around that one. A couple of other breaches and, some best practices on how to sort of recycle and use computer system servers, that sort of thing. So
the fun things.
The fun things, yeah. The things that I think in the IT space, it's the thing people enjoy, though, because you can touch these. I think
that's true.
Easier. It's an easier
tangible
thing in IT and technology, where much of technology lately has been
abstract
security and antivirus and all these different things, where it's really hard to say, yes, let's really go for those things and do it and build plans around it, because they're hard to put your hands on. So it's just a little bit harder. So.
And for the future, if you have other ideas for stuff to talk about, because we'll try to do these, like Chris said, like each month, if you have any like topics or anything you want us to talk about, just because we have more capacity to talk about things kind of more off the cuff.
Yeah, long form.
Yeah, long form. That's a good word for it. So if you guys have any suggestions, let us know.
Yeah, and you can see even some of our latest newsletters have been that way, where we want to teach you guys or have some more breakdowns of larger ideas, but then we don't really have the time in a 3 or 4 minute newsletter. That format. We have no idea if anyone's going to watch these, but we're going to do it, and hopefully they're valuable. Hopefully we'll touch on some points of questions you guys have had.
Right.
And so maybe there'll be one where you're like, cherry pick, I'm going to look at that one. So we'll try and let you guys in on which ones will be best for you. But hopefully there's something valuable for everyone in these.
Right.
So, all right, should we jump into it?
Sure.
Talk about AI.
We can do that.
Okay. Sounds good. So AI, it's a weird term that you either sort of love or hate, right? So that when you hear AI, I think you have that sense of, it's sort of like pickles. It's very one or the other. There's no one that's like, yeah, I could kind of take or leave a pickle. It's just like you either love them or you don't want to be in the same room as a pickle. So, and I think AI is the same thing, right? Where some people are just afraid of it, and rightfully so in some cases. But there's so much unknown as well in there. You have any ideas on Copilot and uses there? I know we kind of talked a little bit about it.
I think Copilot could be really big, just because I think the integration with Microsoft could be really cool. I haven't gotten to try it yet. Half the reason is because the licenses are like super expensive.
Sure. Which
I understand, because I'm sure it's expensive to run Copilot and all those sort of things. But a lot of like the AI systems seem very like segmented off into their own thing. Like ChatGPT kind of just sits in ChatGPT world and everything like that, and Google Bard or Gemini now, excuse me, it's not called Bard anymore. They kind of just, except for Google, kind of doing a lot of integrations too. But Microsoft's one of their best thing is integration with all their services all integrate really well together. Copilot seems to, at least the way they're advertising it, seems to integrate really well with everything else. So I think that could be a huge one, just because it seemed like, again, haven't gotten to try it yet. It seems like Copilot was one of the better ones from what I heard in terms of like usefulness.
Sure.
Which has been one of the big complaints that people have had. Like, yeah, you can do a bunch of cool stuff with AI, like almost party trick like stuff. Like tell ChatGPT or whatever, like, hey, make the code for like this thing to make like a website, which is like a lot of it's like cool to see, but a lot of it's like been super
actual useful.
Or like kind of useful, but like you wouldn't use it like day to day.
Right.
But like now Copilot seems like it can do some real stuff. Like can do some like cool like email formatting stuff for you, or like email like assistant stuff. You can help with like scheduling and everything, like stuff you would actually like want an AI to use.
Yeah, and I think because of its integration with Office 365, there's value there too, where you can kind of have it be, hey, if you saw this, maybe it starts even answering your emails for you or something, right?
Maybe.
Like, if you see this, make sure to go in through my emails and
that could be horrifying.
Respond back.
It could be cool, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see what it's all capable of doing. Obviously, AI is here to stay, right? Because NVIDIA's stock just
blew up.
Crazy. Exploded.
Yeah.
Did it go up?
Like $2 trillion. I think I have it like $2 trillion market. I'm just looking at like the ticker thing right here, like live right now. It's like $2 trillion valuation or something excuse me, something like that, which is just insane, honestly.
Right. Yeah,
not that NVIDIA was ever a small company, but like they just went straight up with the whole AI thing just because a lot of their products that they make work or are very useful for the running, quote unquote, of AI. So a lot of their products are just kind of getting bought out.
So are these GPUs sitting in data centers running the AI?
That's what I think. Yeah. Again, I don't, obviously they're kind of tight-lipped about what all of it does. And like they've talked a little bit, but like sometimes you never know what's just speculation and what's real.
They might be making things specifically for AI.
They could be, That's just not just like publicly, like publicly available products. Because they have made stuff like that before. They make a lot of data center products too that they don't exactly talk about, but they're really cool. It could just be that too. But yeah, some companies getting very big from like OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. Like again, they were kind of unheard of until 6 months ago, and now they're like the big buzz company. Everyone wants to work at, everyone wants to put OpenAI in their LinkedIn bio and everything like that. Like they're the big one to work for. So it's changing everything. It's crazy for better or for worse. But
I think as long as we find safe ways to use it and things like that,
Yeah,
I've seen people in schools now trying to use that to write papers and do all these different things, right? So it's,
how do we don't do that?
Don't do that. Yeah, don't use it for that. But how do we find ways to add value to our lives rather than just robot? Like sort of make everything.
I think
robotic.
I think what a lot of people are thinking, I kind of agree with this sentiment, is it should never. I can't remember. It was a LinkedIn thing, which I wish I linked because I lost it because once you swipe away on accident, you can never find it again. It was like AI should always be like the best helper. It should never actually like do anything. Right. Like it should never be the leader of anything. Like the example that I saw in the LinkedIn article that I can't find anymore is that it's because some people, one of the big things that everyone thought AI was going to replace was like web developers. Like, like I was talking about before, ChatGPT, make me a website. It's like, okay, yes, it can technically do that, but the website is not, it can't. The idea was that AI can't like think outside the box and can't like see things in context of like a real world scenario, like where like an actual person would be able to do that. So like think the idea behind keeping it like safe and so it just doesn't make everything robotic and keeps creativity alive is it can really only go as far as being like a great helper, and it has to kind of stop at that point. It's kind of like the sentiment that I think people are kind of getting on board with. And there's been regulation that's been a lot of regulation is being made around AI right now.
And I think I've seen examples too where people are trying to use it to write resumes or that sort of thing, but then it doesn't really, you can tell that it doesn't really feel like the person, right? And so I think there is some human element that's fairly obvious, at least at this stage in AI, that still something written by a person better portrays what they want to do, or even a job description or something like that. You're just saying, hey, here's the kind of person we're looking for. Here's the kind of company we are. If you just let AI write it for you, it doesn't really feel, you're not putting a ton of what the emotion is in that description. It's just going to be some very, very generic, whatever, job description. Write me this job description for whatever. And,
which in that example, it could help you to like write that, like, hey, help me find like
you
ways
might get
to phrase
close.
this.
It might be good to find sort of the framework for some of that. And if you're getting stuck there, but then to sort of add your own
human touch.
Yeah, your own human touch to it. That's the thing. I think if we can take AI and then sort of like get the ball rolling, and then I think that's where it could be helpful.
Exactly.
So.
Still cool. It'll be cool to see. It'll be cool and scary to see. But I feel like usually my sentiment lies, even in IT, my sentiment recently has lied more towards kind of anxious about it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. I think because I think the worry is there's so much unknown. We don't really know what it's going to be used for. Right. And finding sort of those actual use cases for it. But
there is also a lot of fear mongering online about it. So like if you're reading stuff, make sure which is something that we like to try to do to help, is make sure not just reading all the noise and the either the blind praise of it or just the pure fear mongering, because both of those are not good. You have to find like a objective standpoint. So it'll be big though.
Yeah, I think so. Let's move on to ATT.
Sure.
Their massive 6-day outage recently.
No, theirs wasn't that big. The 6-day outage is something else that we'll get to. They did have a big outage though. It was like,
was it 48 hours or
something like that. It was big. I don't remember an actual timeline, but I have the Verge article here. I gotta find it. For most of Thursday, that's what it was, because I think we were thinking of something else. But a major network carrier, AT&T, one of like the largest, if maybe even the largest carrier in the United States. I'm not entirely sure. All three of the carriers are kind of tied right now, though.
They've got to be pretty big.
They're huge, though.
I think they don't have market share anymore. Yeah. And
they don't have market share anymore?
It probably was Verizon at some point. It might be T-Mobile now, even.
The biggest one? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like T-Mobile's been buying up business by.
Well, that's true.
By sort of discounting, and I know they've been targeting governments and things like that. So.
Point being, on Thursday, last week Thursday, if you didn't know, and if you, thankfully, weren't on AT&T. I'm not trying to have a grudge against AT&T, but I've never entirely been a super big fan of them, which I feel like I can't say in a newsletter, but I feel like I can say that here. Anyways, objectively speaking, they had a really big network outage on Thursday. So like if you had an AT&T, like if your phone carrier was AT&T, you weren't like on Wi-Fi or anything like that, or you didn't have like another carrier like as a backup carrier, which probably no one does because who wants to pay for 2 phone plans for 1 phone? But they basically just had a massive network outage where most people who are on AT&T all throughout the country weren't able to like place calls. They weren't able to like anything text anything. You could do text if you're on Wi-Fi,
yeah.
But usually you're not always on Wi-Fi. So it's just like a massive outage. They did say, from what I saw, because AT&T has their normal network and then they have their FirstNet network, which FirstNet is like their first responder network.
Yep.
That apparently, because that's a completely separate network. Apparently that was perfectly fine, but you weren't able to place 911 calls and stuff like that. And I saw stories of people were doing, if people on AT&T were doing test calls to 911, which I think that's like,
just hoping it goes through.
The
first person who got reconnected to the system got their 911 call delivered, and then they had to get someone. I just looked too. AT&T is twice the size of Verizon, ish. They're almost twice the size of Verizon.
Oh my god!
It's AT&T Mobility, so that might include mobile hotspots and home internet and some other things. It could be, but yeah, it's a lot.
Number.
It's 242 million dollars. Sorry, not dollars. Subscribers.
Yeah.
So. Looks like
number.
T-Mobile and Verizon are close. T-Mobile is about to surpass them, but yeah. So AT&T is quite big, definitely the biggest network because for many years they were the sort of only carrier in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So a lot of the last mile and the networks and a lot of the fiber and things that are still in the infrastructure, even in Spectrum's.
Yeah.
A lot of it's still on AT&T,
right.
Unless for these people that some of the new stuff that people are getting put in is on their own. Stuff, but yeah, I know a lot of carriers still probably run stuff on AT&T, so
probably
it's a massive outage.
Yeah, it is. And they did confirm that it was not a cyber attack. It was just they didn't say what actually happened because they're very tight-lipped about what actually happened. They won't actually say what actually happened. I guess something broke. They won't say.
Probably was something silly where someone just put like 127.0.0.1 as the default route on one of their.
That guy might need a little bit more
global BGP routes,
maybe.
And everything just goes down.
Right. It was probably something just like an accidental. There's been stories like Facebook not last year as well, or like Cloudflare. There's like a little accidental mistake causes a gigantic issue. Right. This could have been something just like that.
It takes you 6 hours to find the router that it's on, that someone put it in the wrong spot.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So they won't say what it was. They did apparently, if, again, take this with a grain of salt because I just saw it while scrolling Twitter on Thursday or Friday when this happened. Apparently people were getting like $5 refunds, apparently.
I think, yeah, if you look at some of those carrier guarantees or SLAs, sometimes we try to get these carriers that will guarantee the uptime and that sort of thing. Usually on the contract, they only repay you for the time you're down as a percentage of your monthly bill. So if your monthly bill,
which would be like $5,
right? Or so if you're paying $40
like
a month or $70 a month or whatever, and you're down for 8 hours or 10 hours, they pay you for that. And maybe they paid a little extra on account of it, which seems hilarious because we all try to go after these fiber carriers and things like that with these better SLAs.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're down for 8 or 12 hours, you're like, okay, here's $500. We lost way more than $500 in a day of outage, right?
Yeah, right.
It's funny. We think that some of these SLAs are really, really good, but they probably don't really replace the downtime that would actually occur. It's just like a.
Would you feel, not to get off topic, do you think that's more of a nicety thing to try, like as a perk, like if we miss it, because they're not legally obligated to do that.
I don't know, or maybe it's a way of them proving to you that because they don't want to pay you back for service that you're paying for, that they're going to just try harder, maybe to make sure that your service is working so that they don't have to write you a check.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I think we sometimes think of SLAs like, oh, we're going to be able to hold them accountable to whatever. And then you don't read the fine print to realize they're actually just going to pay you for the $300 of internet. It might not even be that much. If your internet's $1,000 a month and they're down for a day, it's nothing.
Whatever that is, yeah.
So
yeah, but this did only affect mobile. It looks like. So if you had like AT&T like home internet, as long as your home internet wasn't riding off, because they have this new thing called AT&T Air, I think it's called, which is just like,
which is probably some of those mobility subscribers.
It probably is, yeah, right. Probably is, but it's just
Yeah.
basically like a big hotspot that sits in your house, and like your home internet is routed through like the nearest AT&T tower. All three carriers do this sort of thing. But as long as you don't have that, it sounds like if you had just generic AT&T internet like I used.
So what was the actual question? The question was
like, what would
you do in this scenario?
Yeah. Which is kind of hard because someone asked me that.
The answer is probably nothing, right? Like, is that still
the only other idea I could think of is like if stay on Wi-Fi if you can, which is great. But if you need to like go out, like field devices, if like you have a device out in the field, for whatever your job is, like then what do you do? I don't know. The only other option I can think of is like getting eSIM, because your phone can support multiple SIMs, so you can be connected to multiple carriers. What is the solution? Then buy another phone plan.
But then you're usually signing a contract. So what? Get a Mint Mobile account and pay the $15 to get a sort of
there's no
pay-as-you-go
good solution.
1 month thing.
Yeah,
I guess that could be a Band-Aid if you had a couple really, really critical devices and you really, really needed something. You could eSIM a Mint Mobile or something like that, where you're not on contract and you're just paying for the first month or two or whatever. But
then you don't have your same phone number.
You wouldn't have the same phone number. I guess the issue too is, and I think a lot of these times when we think about these scenarios, we think about, because that's what we do, you think about backups. What does a backup look like?
Yeah.
The next question is, how long does it take you to switch to the backup and then back to the regular thing? So that's always the issue, is what's like the time between switching to this failover. Maybe it takes an hour to switch over to that, but you have no idea. They might be up in an hour and 15 minutes. So then you get 15 minutes of service and then switch back to the other one. And a lot of times you're just better off waiting for them to resolve it, I suppose, right?
And don't some carriers have like a thing where like if you don't use, like you have to use, like you can't just like have a service and then not use it, right? Or am I wrong?
You're saying if you signed up for a like temporary Mint Mobile?
Yeah, and then let's say you don't use it for 9 months because the outage there hasn't been an outage ever since you get it.
I think Mint and some of these other carriers are pay as you go, so you could.
So it would be.
I think
fine.
that first month might be more expensive than $15, but I think you could sign up for. I think full price is $25 maybe. So you could sign up, pay $25.
Sure.
Use it for 4 hours, and then just not renew it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Again, you're going through the process. You're getting a new eSIM. You're scanning this, this QR code on your screen, getting it to activate on your phone, getting a new phone number, adding an account. I think Mint is weird. You can't add a whole bunch of things. So I think you'd have to add an account for each number. I haven't done it yet. I don't know.
Some of them are definitely like that.
But some of them are weird. So it wouldn't be a super straightforward process. But I guess if there was, there's 2 or 3 people I really need on the road, and they're maybe not, on this emergency 911 network that AT&T runs.
Yeah, right.
That could be a quick solution. Again, you'd have to be a very, very high level need to
warrant that.
Because again, I think unless I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking, is maybe it's just a thing you pay for all the time. Then you just have 2 SIMs, right?
Yeah, then you just have it forever. Then it's just like, what's the,
you just pay $15 a month
the cost of
for
that
a
is
Mint
worth
Mobile.
it. Yeah.
Again, maybe there's a handful of sort of high-end users that are just like, these devices can never go down. I don't want them to be down.
Right.
Then you could totally have 2 numbers.
Maybe.
Again, you would have 2 numbers. So if you were going to text that person, you'd have to add a group chat with like you and both of them.
Or like if you're gonna be out in the field like doing work calls, but then it's now not gonna be from a work number.
And someone texted you, then I don't know.
Yeah. Unless you're using like a different phone app.
It's a tough answer, yeah.
Like a go-to.
It's one of those. It's one of those questions we would never think we'd have to ask, right, or answer
until it happens.
Yeah. Because normally we're thinking of like internet goes out all the time. Hardware has issues all the time, so we're always thinking about how do we back it up and find solutions for that sort of thing. It's funny to have to think about network carriers because we kind of think over-the-air stuff is immune to outages and things like that, right? Because a lot of times when you have a physical internet outage in a building, it was something physical that happened. It got cut, a line fell, something where an over-the-air one just seems a little bit more resilient.
It's weird, like abstract, exactly.
So,
like because the tower's 10 miles away. Like you don't think about it really.
Yeah, and a lot of those have probably like backhaul point-to-point over-the-air redundancies too.
So.
So that in case the internet at that site goes down, you can air fiber with a Unify access point or something. They've got to have some redundancy in
something
those
like
where
that,
if your local fiber goes down, you can still get the traffic even if it slows down.
Still
down the line somewhere.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So it seems very resilient to failures, but
and these things are super rare. Like when's the last time like a phone carrier went down?
No idea. Yeah, maybe this is the new thing. It's just going to be
The new thing.
It's going to happen
The
all
new
the time
normal.
now.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. It's going to be our next monthly newsletter is going to be like how to put two SIMs on your phone.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
It's going to be a quick 3-minute video of us actually scanning a QR code and adding Mint to all of our T-Mobile accounts in case they start having issues.
Even though Mint is T-Mobile.
I know, yeah.
So it's ironic, but I get what you're saying.
Fail over to the, yeah.
Fail over to the
Failover, yeah, is the same thing.
Right.
It's more of a like billing failover than it is like an actual
Billing failover. Oh my gosh.
in case their back office just like drops your SIM from a thing.
That might be my new favorite thing. Billing failover. All right.
Move on to UHC.
Sure. So basically, United Healthcare, who they're one of the largest like insurance companies in the country, I'm sure.
Probably.
They might actually be the largest one. Don't quote me on that, please. But they have a subsidiary partner, or probably not partner, probably like a subsidiary, something like that, wherever you'd like to call it, called like Charge Healthcare. And I've got the like TechCrunch article up here. But if you didn't hear about it, Change Healthcare, not Charge Healthcare. Change Healthcare is like the pharmaceutical division of UHC, from what I understand. Basically, they had like a big cyber attack that lasted like a couple of days. It sounded like at least 4 days. That kind of just brought down all their systems and everything like that, which, okay, like that's terrible and everything like that. I didn't think about this until I read people talking about it again on Twitter. I guess I spend too much time on Twitter or something like that. I'm seeing all these things on Twitter, but people were saying like they would be going to Change Healthcare, like backed pharmacies, and like they couldn't process insurance. They couldn't process like a lot of things. So like, okay, either you have to wait for your medication so we can get our system back up because it's all down because it's all back ends to Change Healthcare, or you just got to buy it full price. So like if you have a medication that's like $10, now you have to pay $500, or you wait. Like that I didn't think about, like the cost of an outage. Like you would never, like those two completely separate things.
Yeah,
like
it's the cost difference between a prescription based discounted through a UHC or something like that versus just paying directly is pretty significant usually.
Yeah. And there's so many of these ransomware hacking groups all the time, and they all have like really weird abstract names, so it's kind of hard to keep track of them. But it sounds like there's kind of like a new ransomware like hacking group that's kind of been becoming relevant mostly after this thing, that's been kind of attacking like Change Healthcare, and like they're allegedly trying to target like other things because of retaliation from like the FBI and stuff like that. So it's just like nothing is safe, basically, which is kind of like the weird. Yeah. I have nothing positive to say. I wish I had something positive to say. Well, I wish I did. You say something positive. Yeah. It's just, it's hard. It's scary.
Yeah. I think it's just, not necessarily to be scary, but
right.
I think there's just, I think, and maybe it's not even happening so much anymore, but I think for a long time, everyone felt like it's not me. It's not going to happen to me. Or it's not like we're not a target. It's not, it's never going to happen to us. Even United Healthcare, people like this, I think, can you imagine the amount of time, effort, energy, money spent on cyber at a place like that? And they still get a breach. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of the planning now isn't really around not getting breached. Mm-hmm. It's what do we do when we get breached?
Like a reaction
like
sort of
how,
thing.
How good are our backups? How good are our systems? How good are our alerting things? I think that's how quickly can we respond when a breach happens? Honestly, I think those are more the conversations now versus it's not going to be us, is more of how do we be ready for when it is. Like what is even if you look at cybersecurity insurance policies now when they're making you fill out the forms, mm-hmm. a lot of the questions now are, how long do you think it would take you to get back from this backup? How long would it take you to think to get your email running? How long would it take to get this? Mm-hmm. I think it's because that's where their costs are, is how long is your business down before you're back up again? And that's where they're paying out, is that sort of business downtime. UHC, and I mean, it's just another one in the long list of breaches that I think it's really anyone and everyone, because even if they get someone small, I don't think they really care. I think because someone small might have 100 contacts in their email, they might have 1,000 contacts in their email. And if they can use that to leverage one of those 1,000 people to click on something, mm-hmm. It's just their way of spreading whatever it is they're trying to get, whether they're data mining, whether they're trying to get money, whether they're whatever. The more users they can get access to, the more likely they are to find someone that's going to click on it.
Right.
It's just a game of chance for them. And so they're going after literally anyone that will click on whatever they're trying to get you to do. And
Yeah.
so I think we have to, that's probably why we bring it up a lot is
Yeah.
it's just affecting anyone and everyone. It's
Yeah.
affecting these massive companies. They're coming after little companies. They're coming after anyone. And we just have to be so cautious on the internet that everything, it feels cynical to have to always be thinking that everything you do on the internet, that any email you get, you're probably going to be a little suspicious. And we get a lot of those. It's just hilarious. People send them to me and they're like, they're getting good. Look at this one, and but they'll hack someone, and send something to you so that it looks like that person. And, again, it's, you're at work late or you're work early and you haven't had your coffee yet. And you're just kind of,
or it's one of the 400 emails you're
or
getting
it's one of
that
the,
day.
4,400 emails you get in a day. You're just like powering through stuff and just, click. Show me the thing. And before you know it, you've done something, given away information, whatever. It just happens so quickly. And there's, it does slow down the workflow because you just be that cynical to read, hover over links, Yeah.
It's all good stuff though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the hacking's not good.
No, I mean
still
the
think
security stuff.
I have a good idea. And if this
They
is going to
heard
be maybe
it. They
on the
know what
internet,
I'm talking about.
Yeah. This might be, if this is on the internet, I think this may be a good idea. If the president is watching this, I think it would be good to have some sort of like ransomware tax or something, right? Like I would pay a couple $100 a year extra in like my taxes, put it in property taxes or something.
Escrow, yeah.
5.01% Waukesha County, and just pay off these guys. Put them on an island somewhere. Give them the Mai Tais. Hey, if you're smarter than this in the cybersecurity space, you are potentially a risk. We'll pay you $100,000. We'll put you on this nice private island. You get Mai Tais for the rest of your life, but you won't get a computer or internet.
Clearly, I'm doing something wrong.
Right?
Then.
I mean, is that seems right, wouldn't it? I mean, just
I don't know if I want to say this seems right. I just
It might solve the problem though.
I think there's other ways. But
Are there?
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess they don't have a backup.
I bet you.
So sure,
I bet you. What are the losses every year annually?
Oh my god!
These cybersecurity insurance policies might just pay that out. They might be like, Chris, I love that idea. We'll totally pay these guys $100,000 a year.
Please don't encourage it.
So you don't like my idea?
You
just wait. Someone's gonna take this idea and patent it tomorrow, and then we're
don't.
They're gonna call it the CCA cybersecurity insurance policy, and there's nothing we're gonna do.
They're gonna patent it with our name.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If we publish this on the internet and there's like a timestamp on it, does that give us like any kind of rights to? No, you don't think so?
If you're a lawyer, let us know. Please don't though. Don't bother with it.
But honestly, like at some level, there's gonna have to be that government.
Maybe
there's gonna have to be that government step in of like, how do we prevent these people from? I don't know.
There
right?
totally could be.
Block their computers, block their IP addresses. There's gonna have to be some oversight at some level. It's gonna be too.
Because what's stopping them now? Just if they get caught, they obviously go to jail for usually a while.
But I mean, you start getting into healthcare, you start getting into when they start hacking governments and oil fields, and it's starting to get serious. Now it's like, how do we get in there and prevent them from doing it?
Right.
There's got to be some answer.
Just not what you said.
Hey, if it's 10% of the annual spend and it goes to zero, I think that's a good deal. We all get 90% off. Instead of paying cybersecurity insurance, just put some of that money in just island.
You know what sucks? I don't have a rebuttal to this. So maybe it is right. I don't know. Maybe it is actually a good idea. Which, if you ever want insight of what it's like to work at CCA, I'll have people back out there.
It's a good idea.
Us.
It could be.
This stuff happens all day.
Well, the downside is this: like 10, 15 years from now, that's what the government's going to do, and they're going to be like, "Remember that podcast that CCA did 10 years ago?
Remember?
We should try that. Buy an island.
We should try it.
Yeah. How much does an island cost? We already own a couple. Let's just pick one. It's like an IQ test. You like break through some like above this IQ. Free visit to the island. You get everything's paid for.
The island. Yeah. Oh, name it the island.
The island. Yeah.
Like I said, it's
Mai Tais for everyone.
No rebuttal to that. So maybe it is. Maybe you heard it here.
I should have given you more time to think of a rebuttal.
Man of the future.
Yeah.
All right. After whatever that was.
Best idea you've ever heard. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Computer Lifecycle. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any initial thoughts on that?
No, so it's another, like the ATT thing, another submitted question is what are the different sort of options? How do you phase out computers, technology, servers? What's the best practice? What are the options? And I think the answer to that is yes, right?
Right. Technically, yes.
Yeah. So I think there's probably two schools of thought, right? You can sort of replace them in advance or wait for them to completely kick the bucket, right? Those are probably your two choices. I guess there's something in between. Maybe you could replace them way early before they die, or sort of like nearer that, so you could replace them in that 3 to 5 window, or you could kind of let them go to 7, 10 and just wait for them to completely stop functioning.
Or you break them and then replace them early.
Right. Yeah. Which some of our staff I think would do to get better computers. There's some rumblings around here of people that want touchscreens. I could see some broken non-touchscreen devices coming in someday just to get a newer device.
I know who you're talking about. I don't think he's just gonna go break a computer, just throw his fist through a screen just to get it.
Yeah, it's got his fingerprints all over it.
But yes, I do agree. I think those are really the only two main ways. And the reason that we say the answer is yes is it's kind of up to you and what would work best for your business.
Yeah. Sort of ambiguous, but
yeah, it is slightly ambiguous. But I mean, there are advantages to both. I mean, doing that a rotating life cycle, you could do it by departments, just so you're not cycling all the computers at once, because that could be a $50,000 order of everyone gets a new computer. That could be kind of unreasonable. But some of our clients break up by this department this year they're getting new computers, and then this year the next department, or whatever quarter or whatever. That way the advantage of doing the whole on a cycle is that you can usually kind of catch computers before they start getting too old.
Yeah, and it's budgetable too. So
you can plan for it ahead of time. Yeah.
When the Windows 7 to Windows 10 thing happened, I know that was a big deal for customers because they hadn't planned a ton, and then all of a sudden Windows was like, actually, this year we're pulling the plug, it's done, and so then you all in 1 year all of a sudden have to replace a lot of computers that don't support Windows 10, and you end up because you haven't been cycling them out, you end up in a spot where you have to buy a ton of computers in a really, really short window of time.
Which half the reason we're bringing this up now is because that whole thing's going to happen again, because Windows 10 support is going to stop in October of this year. Right.
I think it's next year, October 25, right?
No, I think it's October. We're going to fact check this. Hold on.
We are.
Windows 10
You're going to be into it, so I'm not going to try.
Oh, I'm a liar. October 24th, 2025. Okay, forget about what I said. Next year it'll be relevant.
It's honestly
it was this year.
It's honestly a conversation we're starting to think about.
It is though.
When do we start having that conversation with customers? Because we'll end up being in the same spot of, can we get people to Windows 11? Do they support it?
Yeah.
What does that process look like again, so that you don't end up in that same Windows 7 to Windows 10 issue where all of a sudden you're running stuff that's incompatible and you're doing it at the last second. So,
and it doesn't mean that you just have to when you cycle out the whole life cycle thing we're talking about, just because let's say you have these computers that we're going to keep in the life cycle for 3 years, doesn't mean you just have to instantly get rid of them if they're perfectly fine. They can just be step down or waterfall down. They can go to an employee who's only working part-time.
Interns.
It could be intern, or a spare. If you need we need to just keep a couple spares on hand. It doesn't just mean it has to just go away. And once it's really truly dead, there's good ways to recycle them and everything like that.
And we can tie warranties all the way around, so you can make it 3 or 4 or 5 years. So that's probably, if I had to give a professional opinion, that probably would be it, right?
Sure.
Just because if you're most of our customers are wonderful, amazing, hardworking, just whatever, right? They're just constantly busy.
Yeah, 100%.
I would if I had my best recommendation, I would want those devices in warranty.
Yeah, 100%.
Just because the turnaround time for getting them up and running is much faster, assuming there's not a spare in that scenario.
Yeah, right.
So I would if we're going to do a life cycle model, I would love to see that in the warranty matches the replacement window. So if you're going to do a 4-year replacement window,
warranty should be 4 years. Yeah. So that's your recommendation.
That would be,
if you had to pick one.
Best case scenario, that's what I would love. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Just because you end up with much fewer variables in that scenario, right?
Yeah, because then you could, if you did all of them at once, let's say you grew by 50%, or 100%, whatever from the previous year, it's a lot harder to budget for the other way of just mass getting them all at once, and it doesn't entirely accommodate for a lot of variables. If you need intern computers or a spare, whatever.
Or you could get 3-year warranties and they die at 4 years, so they're not really. Let's say you do a 5-year replacement cycle, but they die in the middle.
Yeah, right.
Now you've not necessarily solved anything, because you're now panicking again because you have a whole bunch of computers that just came out of warranty.
Didn't really solve anything,
and they're dying, and so you don't have a way of getting them fixed quickly with Dell.
Right.
So then you're putting a motherboard in a 4-year-old computer with your own money is just probably not worth it, because you're spending $300 or $400 or $500 on a computer that's now out of warranty,
Yeah.
probably right on the end of its useful life anyway, you're going to end up throwing it away anyway. So
it might genuinely not even be worth $500.
right, exactly. Yeah. So you're better off. I think that's ideal world. Warranty matches the life cycle.
Yeah.
That would be probably my best life version.
Can you extend warranties after the fact
Sure.
on a computer?
It's usually more expensive because they know that if you've gotten that far, their chance of
It breaking is a lot higher.
Is higher.
Yeah.
It's actually not. I looked recently again, and they're not. To get to 4 or 5 years isn't too expensive.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to be in the. I'm not sure they offer it on sort of the home lines, but as long as you're in the business line, it's usually.
Yeah, you know what
usually
personal warranties are like.
Yeah. They don't warranty peripherals, which is the downside. So monitors, docking stations, that sort of thing. There's not really anything you can do past the initial 1-year warranty. And it's not even a damage warranty, so that is less than ideal on some vendors. But
well, I mean, you'll get like the manufacturer, like if it comes and the screen is broken, like you'll get.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But like not like if you.
Yeah.
Short it, like to spill water.
And it's
on it,
you
something.
can't extend those. You can't match those up with the physical laptop warranty. So you can't get 3 and 5 year warranties on.
Right. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Granted, probably I would argue probably a monitor or a dock is probably less likely to breaking.
Yeah, for sure.
Say.
There are a lot
hopefully.
less issues.
They don't really move around.
Right.
Hopefully.
I bet you could get some warranties if they're more expensive devices. You could call up Dell and
like get like a super nice monitor for like $800. Please give me a warranty.
Yeah.
Maybe you could. Yeah, that'd be actually interesting to see sometime.
I'm guessing getting warranty on a monitor is a lot easier than the docking stations. I just haven't seen those. But
I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me for a warranty on a docking station though. Not yet, unless you want one. Then ask. I guess. I don't know.
Call the Lloyds of London or something and see if they'll.
The what?
You've never heard of the Lloyds of London?
No.
They'll insure anything. Those are the people that insure football players' hands and arms for millions of dollars.
I am trying to unlock
new.
my computer so I can see if this is true because I almost don't know if I believe this.
Yeah, it's the Lloyds of London. It's
Lloyds?
Lloyds of London. Yeah, it's an insurance arm that will insure just about anything. Yeah.
There's no way this is real.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
Not that I've ever needed to do that, but.
I mean, I guess I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting to go to their website and be like, we'll insure anything.
If you were like, hey, my career here at CCA is almost entirely based on the awesomeness of my hair, you could insure that for some amount of money. And if all of a sudden your hair went gray, all of a sudden you could get money.
Which it might.
Yeah. So.
Can you buy insurance policies out of the country?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
It's the Lloyds of London is super expensive, so obviously
sure,
it's a ridiculous thing. So I'm sure
that's not an endorsement.
You're going to pay. Yeah,
Lloyds of London. We're not a sponsor.
Yeah. Ad placement. Lloyds of London. If you're watching this, give us some money, please. Use code CCA at checkout.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
What's our answer? I mean, yes, is that our answer? Sort of.
I do think like obviously it does kind of depend on like what you're doing, but I think our recommendation is the life cycle route.
Sure.
Like the cycling route.
Yeah, the clients of ours that are doing it generally have less issue because they're at year 4, year 5. I think that's probably a good number. You probably can get past 3 pretty easily nowadays.
Probably.
I would have maybe back in the spinning hard drive days, I would have said, yeah, let's do 3. But now with flash and if we, I think they're lasting a little bit longer. But yeah, in that 4 to 5 year window, if the customers that go through those life cycle replacement windows have a lot less issues, right? When things are just kind of intentionally being sort of phased out and added to spares, made intern computers used for a check-in thing here or there or something.
Yeah, right.
Just like, hey, we need a laptop to, enter data somewhere that a volunteer is going to come in and do something. Those end up being pretty good setups because then you're never usually without a good system.
And we can help you make a life cycle plan if you need help doing that. People have asked us like what's the recommendation? Like, how would you break this up? Because obviously like a lot of times it's hard just to buy.
You definitely want to do it. You definitely want to do it in chunks.
Yeah. So like find like what's a good system to like in chunks. Yeah, it's a perfect term.
Yeah. So that if you should do it so that you replace everything in the amount of years you're going to do it. So if you're going to do a 5-year replacement plan, you'd want to do a fifth and 25% if you're going to do 4 or whatever.
Exactly.
That way you don't all of a sudden have to buy half of them or more or whatever every single year. And I think the issue too is if you were that weighted one direction, when there's a Windows 10 goes out of life or whenever those kind of issues happen, if all of your computers are in like a single bunch, you're going to have all those issues at the same time. So I definitely would want to, you'd want to, if you started one of those plans and weren't doing it, you'd want to intentionally be like, okay, what are the oldest fifth or what are the oldest 25% at this point, and let's replace those, and then the next and the next, so that you're, by the time you're done at that point, then you just
keep
repeating
going.
the cycle.
Yeah, going, keeps going on forever. Yeah.
But for tight budgets, the other way isn't bad either. You just want to be ready with spare computers. I think that's been our what we thought what we've seen has been very helpful, is to have, if you're going to wait until they completely die, that there's like a ready to go spare that's just like login user
done
overnight or drop off depending on the situation.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
But there's a recommendation.
Yeah.
I can't really think of another way to do it.
There's still downtime in that scenario, right?
There is,
because there's still, maybe 24 to 48 hours of downtime. So depending on where you're, and like you said earlier, the answer is yes, but it is kind of client specific. Right.
Yeah. Whatever.
Is 24 to 48 hours of downtime catastrophic?
Right.
Well, someone calls, hey, they're down. Okay, great. We're logging them in. We're going to do the final setup. Again, it should be really close to done. If it's a spare, it should be ready to go.
Probably, yeah, almost
But
there.
then you're going to ship it. So, hopefully we can get everything overnight, unless I can't think of any that wouldn't be able to get overnight. But by that point, you're probably down that day. You're down the next day.
Yeah, right.
Until it's actually there. And then there's probably some final touches and tweaks to get things on. And then you have to ship back your old device to us in case there's things on it that we need to get off the old hard drive. So, it could be, you could still be, you're definitely still rolling some dice in that scenario, because there's definitely more moving parts that we would smooth out all those rough edges on a replacement plan. We would schedule all that and we would get that in advance. So, but yeah, it's obviously to each their own, whichever they think is best. If the 24 to 48 hour, sort of downtime isn't the end of the world, then yeah, that's probably the cheapest method, because then you can get things to run, 5 years, 6 years, 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you spec things well enough when you buy them, they usually do last a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. By 7 years, you're probably replacing anything.
Hopefully.
anyone getting that, you've got your money's worth at year 6 and 7. We've seen some people come in. I don't know that they were clients necessarily, but just friends or people that brought things in asking advice. And I think it was maybe 2 months ago, someone brought in a computer from, I don't even know. It was like 2014 or 2012 or something. And they were asking if they should replace it. I was like, you have got your money's worth twice or 3 times over by now.
I
you
know
just
a couple of those
go,
too.
you need to go straight to somewhere and get a new computer. You should not feel bad, But I think that was the thing. Should I replace some things? Is there like a part I should do?
Right,
Maybe I should get a new.
Can I get this longer?
Some new memory or things like that. I'm like, how old is it? Oof, I can't believe it's still running. It still turns on.
Let it rest. It's done its job.
Yeah, it's done its job. So, but yeah, so that's our advice. I guess that's not really an answer, but again, I think we can help you figure that out. I think it's those questions. It's the same question around backup. What's the right answer to the backup? Well, the answer is how much risk do you want to take on, right? Do you want to take on a lot of risk, a little bit of risk? I think that's probably the actual answer to the question
is yes.
Yeah, yes. It's that sliding scale between budget and
risk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can help with that.
Yeah. We can indeed.
Should that be your slogan? We can help with that. We can indeed.
It's the We Can Indeed podcast.
I guess which one can they see? They can see our mission. We just need to put it right there.
Yeah.
We can help.
Yeah.
We can indeed.
It's one of our core values.
It's our only core value.
Yep.
I'm kidding. No, it's not.
This got to 45 minutes. Are people going to watch this whole thing?
That's impressive. Oh my gosh, you should probably wrap that up.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's 4:30.
So, I think we were targeting half an hour. We might need to tone down my business ideas, my business venture ideas. That added at least another 3 or 4 minutes to the podcast.
That's okay.
Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. If you made it this far, congratulations. We'll put chapters in these too. I don't know.
That'd be a good idea.
Find it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for some stuff, if you're just popping into these in the future.
We'll still be doing our newsletter too.
Yeah, make sure to watch the newsletter still.
They will not be 45 minutes.
But we want to answer these questions. We're go in the comments too. We have some other thoughts of maybe doing some live Q&A as well. So if there's ever a desire for that, if people thought they would come, we don't want to do a Q&A and have no one show up.
That'd be sad.
So if you guys like the idea of, as we're going through something maybe similar to this same setup, we're going to talk about Office 365, maybe Teams or Planner or something.
Anything.
If there's a time you guys think that you could pop in and ask questions, then you could ask real world practical, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Any ideas? If that would be valuable for anyone, let us know. And we'd make those live, obviously, but I guess chime in, let us know what you think, and make sure to name this podcast. So do we have a sign off, like a formal? I feel like isn't that everyone's like calling card is like what their sign off is?
Something like that.
Yeah. What's MKBH? MKBH do you like to slap the lens camera?
Yeah, like cover the lens sort of thing, cut to black. We don't know yet.
Nothing.
If you have title ideas or sound ideas, also please let us know.
I like how we're just gonna outsource all of our
everything.
marketing
Please
ideas.
just help us.
Yeah.
We sat here for like 2 minutes before and we like, what do we call the podcast? I'm like, I have no idea.
We love technology and we love our customers, but we don't know how to name podcasts. So if there's some marketing geniuses out there,
yes,
yeah, give us your ideas.
Untitled video.
Cool, awesome. Thanks everyone. Thanks for making it this far. We now added another 2 minutes to this thing, so hopefully that doesn't make this too long. But yep, we'll keep doing these, and we'll see you guys at the newsletter or the next podcast.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.